Can you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Yes. So my name is Anna. I have over a decade of experience working within digital transformation, specifically within management consulting, taking clients into the cloud to on the original HBO Go and Disney Plus launch team, helping consumers with streaming devices.
Amazing. Anna, I would love to talk to you about some of the challenges that you were facing before discovering the program. What were some of these challenges you were facing before you discovered the program?
So I am not somebody that likes to ask for help. I find that I can resolve my own questions and answers as long as I know like where to look and how to look for things. And I'm somebody that is also technically savvy. And so I was able to leverage AI to do a lot of the grunt work, if you will, in terms of updating LinkedIn, updating my resume, and back in 2004, early 2004, I used AI to apply to roles on my behalf and got a job
Mm,
that way. And it was very like hands off. But because of the way that the ecosystem works, by the time I tried that same approach only 8 months later, the exact opposite was happening where I was getting no responses and just spending money on tools that weren't being effective. And I knew that time is money and whatever approach I was using, it was no longer functioning and I couldn't really understand what I needed or what was missing. And that's when I decided I am not an expert in this career field and I need help to not just get in front of recruiters, but also during the interview process. And so I fell in love with this program because it allowed me to talk to experts in the field and to join like-minded individuals going through the same program, having the same exact frustrations that I had, and to be able to ask questions in real time. That type of community support and expertise really helps me.
that's amazing. You already answered some of the questions that I had
Okay.
as a follow-up for you anyway. A few things actually that I want to dive in a little bit in terms of what you've mentioned. Tell me a little bit more about those tools that you've tried out. And some of them you said did work back then when you tried it, but now in this market it no longer works. Tell me a bit more about that because it might be some of the things that folks out there are also wasting their time on trying.
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. So the year was like early 2024, and the consumers were still trying to wrap their heads around like what AI is and what its purposes were. And there was a tool, and I'm trying to remember this exact name, but it promised to take your resume and apply it to roles on your behalf. And I thought, great, let's try that. And I'll also try it as well. So that way it's a matter of volume. And that did work because I did get interviews and then a full time role after that. But then 8 months later, I found myself in the market again. And that same tool and that same approach actually was giving me diminishing returns because their pricing had changed. It was charging me more for less applications, and the quality of companies that it was applying to, I wasn't satisfied with. And at this point in time, the market now was flooded with ghost applicants, ghost
Mm.
job postings, and it was just really challenging to filter through the noise. And I found myself just in a constant state of frustration where I was like, I'm doing all the applications. I'm tailoring my role specifically for the ATS resume. I'm seeing above 84% on all my applications, but I'm not getting anything. And I was just spinning tires, not making any traction. And I knew that if I were to continue doing that, I would get burned out, I would get disheartened, and it would just make me bitter and angry. And I didn't want to spend the time, the energy, or the money into something that wasn't working. And that's when I knew I needed help.
I remember our call. It was not too long ago. When did you actually join? That's pretty
September
recent, actually,
16th,
no?
because it was my
September.
birthday.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Oh my goodness. Yes. I remember you're literally like a dream student because you literally came to the call very well prepared. I have all the questions, all the good questions already prepared. And the most important questions at the end was like, okay, how soon can we get this started? I don't think everyone is in that bucket in terms of determination, especially if they identify themselves as someone who doesn't actually like to ask for help. So, what do you think it is in your case that really got you from being frustrated to the part where you're like, okay, I need help, I need it now, I need an expert in this area, and let's get rolling?
Oh, that's a good question because there's a little bit of personal and a little bit of professional. On the professional side, I have experience doing A/B testing and trying to understand how to move the metrics. And it was very evident that whatever experiment I was running was not producing any positive metrics. And so something needed to change. And I was spending hours on Reddit and networking like crazy. And I'm an introvert. I don't like putting myself out there. And so I was just like, burning myself out, doing things that I needed to do in order to get a job, but not actually seeing that result. And I was in a point of, I know I need to change this experiment, but I don't know how. And then personally, it was more of, I'm trying to evolve. I want the rest of my life to be the best of my life. And I don't want my story to like end here on, I'm just frazzled by the state of the world and the state of the job market or blah, 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 blah. And I just didn't want to succumb to that being my story. It was fine if it was like a temporary thing. I think that's a common thing nowadays, but I didn't want it. I didn't want to be at a loss for much longer. And I knew that I don't have to be an expert in all things, even though it's easy to say, harder to admit. But I finally admitted it because I was like, I've got bills piling up. I need to be able to enjoy dinner out or travel or do the things that I want to do. And so being stuck in this, I don't need anybody's help or I don't need to pay for this thing where I can get it for free. It really wasn't doing me any service.
That's amazing that you are able to come to that realization, though, right? You can imagine someone in the same situation could come to a totally different conclusion, which is coming from a scarcity mindset, right? Which is more, oh, because I have bills to pay, because I have been searching or in between jobs for a while, I'm going to save. I'm going to try to hodl a bit more of whatever little that is left. I'm not going to invest and spend more money. So I think that in itself really sets you apart already, honestly, just that thinking itself.
Yeah, thank you.
How long was that time when you were like searching by yourself before you joined?
In 2024, it was about 11 months. A lot of factors, both moving, graduating from school, so that extended it. But recently, it was about 6 months. 6 months is too long. Yeah.
So September 16th. So that's what like, and it's not like you got the offer now. You already got it a few
Yeah.
days away, week back. So
I
what
think,
is it, like 8 weeks? Is it like
yeah,
8 weeks in total then?
something
I'm
like,
going to look up the exact.
yeah,
Yeah, but I think it's about 8 weeks then, right? In your case.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
It's incredible. Tell me a little bit about what are some of the specific problems, would you say, did the program help you solve?
Communication. I thought that my story was unique in the sense that I had come with experience and I'm trying to pivot outside of what I've done in the past. And so it was easy for me to sell myself on the fact that I was trying to accomplish something that couldn't be done or was harder to be done because I had experience or because I am a female in tech, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My mind was like telling me all these things of why I couldn't do it. The program really helped me understand how I'm being perceived externally, both to my peers who are in the program also interviewing, as well as to hiring managers and to recruiters. In my experience, I was very cerebral and constantly thinking about what was going on in my head without thinking about what they're seeing or how they might see things. And so the mock interviews, the community group discussions, it allowed me to shift my mindset outside of just me and how I'm perceiving and what I'm thinking and how I answer to how they're interpreting things and how they're perceiving. And that also helped me approach the interview process differently because I was able to do things such as the ADHD training. In my mind, I never thought could be something that could be a disservice because I was not aware of how fidgety I was or how close I was to the camera. But being able to talk about some tactics. Example, releasing the nervousness before the call by just jumping up and down or like getting some energy out. That really helped me too, because I did come into the meetings like, okay, we're here and let's go into these things that I've memorized. And while I was 100% on the memorization, I was at 0% at trying to convince them why I would be fit for the role. So that kind of helped me rethink my approach and relax a little bit more in those sessions.
100%. We have to set up our brain for success. We have to get it to focus on the right things. If all our cognitive juice is just going towards like, how do I do the Q&A the best? How can I get ready to catch the ball wherever they throw it? If that's the case, we're not going to be able to actually think about the problem that's presented at hand and be ourselves. And that is what they need to see. They need to see who you would be once you join. So they need to see exactly that Anna, not the candidate or interviewee Anna. But that is the challenge. And I feel like once people get that, I start seeing a whole different side of them and how they show up in interviews. Out of the different things, the different aspects that you thought was helpful, what's been the most surprising change maybe that you've experienced?
I thought that my challenge was in how I was applying and how I was approaching things. And while that was definitely something that needed to be corrected, I never once thought of how I'm interviewing. And I say that because I'm somebody that comes with a lot of experience, has been in multiple interviews, has been an interviewer. And so I thought that as long as I get in the door, I'm good. But for a slew of personal reasons, my mindset shifted and I was coming from a place of lack. And so pitching myself was harder than when I was younger. That awareness was brought front and center when I started interviewing and doing mock interviews and being like, oh, what they're saying is actually right. And that would have never happened if I would have been training with ChatGPT, for example, or having 50 interviews and maybe somebody would have given me that feedback, but more often than not, it would have been a generic, thank you for your time. So it was just very quick to be able to be like, let's work on this as well. And so that time saving was crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome that you recognize it. And I actually remember you saying that you're pretty good in interviews. So once you get foot in the door, you're going to be good. And you won't believe how many people say that. And the thing is, like, before working with them, I can't just tell them, like, no, I don't think so. But I just know how many subtleties there are between what we think was good enough in other markets and what is really excellent for this current market, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's good as well. It's interesting that you also mentioned the part about ChatGPT because obviously there's a time and space and purpose for AI in this job searching journey. And I use it all the time. And I also definitely encourage clients to use that as well. When it comes to interview prep, it becomes a little bit tricky with AI for sure, especially when it comes to receiving feedback from AI. But I think for fluency, it's great though. I'm curious in terms of confidence. This is a big part for a lot of people when they join the program, especially in this market. Most people have just not experienced anything like this before. And whatever they believed about themselves gets challenged in this process. And so, in one way or another, I see people coming in with their confidence a little bit shaken. So, what would you say? How has being part of this program impacted your confidence or mindset?
You're absolutely right. It's like a humbling experience. I am a type A person, always exceed expectation in performance reviews. And so to be on the job market, I was like, I can't believe this is happening to me. And then to get all the rejections, I'm like, what changed? But also, I think there was an important, early on, I joined a conversation about bias. And my mindset at that point, because I couldn't find a clear answer, was trying to find an answer. And the answer that it was starting to land on was because I'm a female, because I'm a Latina, because I am, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is why things are happening to me. And it was right at the point where I was about to like just throw my hands up and be like, why even try? And then in that same session, There was somebody who was a PhD candidate who was like a white male, and I was like, he has no biases, right? But then he started talking and sharing about all the biases that he experiences. And I was like, oh, I guess that's true. And then somebody else shared their biases, and it felt like a lot less of the cause. And so I'm glad that I was wrong about that. And I'm glad I caught that before it actually took roots.
That is exactly why we do that session. And I love that as well, because not everybody is aware of all these biases either, which is why it's so widely interesting to hear from others as well. People look at you and they also think, she doesn't have any biases. Look at her. She's beautiful. She's type A. She's confident. She's so intelligent and all these things. She doesn't have any biases working against her, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me just recap some of the data. So you were looking on your own for 6 months. And during those 6 months, roughly how many applications did you send out with the help that AI tool and all these things?
400.
300, 400. Okay. And then out of those, how many interviews did you get from it?
Maybe 5 or 6.
Okay. And were those 5 or 6 relevant to what you were looking for, or some not quite?
I think half were
Okay.
relevant and the other half were
Okay. Okay.
really
So we got 3 that are relevant. Okay. And then out of those 3, how far did you make it in the interview process?
the final round, but not the final pick.
Yeah. Okay. And we talked about that, right? What
Yeah.
that means. It's almost more painful. It's
Yeah.
almost more painful because you spend so much more time and energy into it. At the same time, it gives you the wrong feedback in a way because you think, oh, so I must be actually pretty good at it,
Right.
right? I made it all the way. But the fact that you made it so far is because you're way too good for them to say no at any given point. However, your interview skills were not up to where it could have been. And that is why at the end, they would go with another candidate.
Exactly.
And so that is always this really tricky loop that I see often happen. And in terms of time commitment or your input into that process during those 6 months, how would you describe that?
Unpleasant, uncomfortable. Wouldn't recommend to anybody.
Yeah.
I would spend most of the time reworking the resume to get it optimized. And the more I did that, the more I actually diluted the message. It was ineffective and also draining, which is probably the worst situation to be in.
Yeah. Why do you think you kept doing it though?
One, ease, because I just needed to take text from here and text from there and then find keywords and filter replace. And two, because it allowed me to quickly apply to different roles. And so I was able to do the volume easier. Whereas the alternative would be like network, get to know people, do coffee chats, do one on ones. And as an introvert, that sounds a lot harder than just going behind my desk and doing computer stuff. And in a way, it still sounds easier, but it's also less effective.
Yeah, and that's the problem when you do it on your own, right? Because it's even like going to the gym, right? Some of the exercises you do need someone else to stand next to you and say, you can do it, right? And then there's some other things that you could do on your own. But I think when it comes to the job search, it's definitely, I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to do it. Let me just do that stuff that is busy work that makes me feel like I am still doing something. Now let's contrast that actually. I want to look at what you've been doing in the program, what that looks like. And the reason I also am interested in that is because I don't want people to actually think that you come in and it's just magic. It just happens. It doesn't. You still have to work. Like it's still hard work. And so I do want to hear that side of things as well. During those 8 weeks from start to finish, how many applications you sent out in contrast to that?
I would say it was more around like 75, but it was a lot more funnel focused in terms of like dream company, dream role, dream contact. What happened was because I was more aware of modifying LinkedIn for humans, not just I got more inbounds. And so that helped with both the pushing and the pulling of opportunities. And I found that the pulling of opportunities, like the inbounds from recruiters, were a lot more successful than me just cold emailing or cold applying, just trying to beat the odds.
Totally. So you were attracting them, right? Just much more effectively. And ultimately, the role that you did get in the end, the offer, it did actually come from inbound as well, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in terms of just the way it felt, your commitment,
Mhm.
how would you describe that, the day-to-day work and what you did?
It honestly felt a bit like a double-edged sword because I was coming in, oh, I can't believe I'm here still talking about trying to find a job, and I'm trying to find a job, and that's like a hard pill to swallow. I'm here because I need it and I don't want to need it. But then when I was there and listening into the conversations and the dialogue, it was very beneficial because it raised my awareness level, and I learned a lot of things that I can continue to use throughout the rest of my life. And so already that is a benefit. And then, like you said, you still have to apply. The spreadsheet, the tracker was also helpful too, because it forced me to, instead of looking at like a LinkedIn job list of whoever posted in the past 24 hours and me being like, yeah, no, it allowed me to be like, okay, these are the top 30 and these are where they're hiring and how they're hiring. And now let me find out like who's from that company I can start to follow or comment or do something for. And so that also felt a lot more, it almost felt like a relief.
Awesome. Tell us about your good news. When was it exactly that you got an offer? Tell us about the interview process and things that led up to
Yeah.
that.
So I'm going to be the director of AI revenue for a company. They have basically brought a portfolio of independent websites. They need to infuse AI into all of their different portfolios and need somebody that is able to both go high level and also into the weeds, see how they can take what they have already been doing for the past 50 years and grow it.
Got it. The title itself already screams that you're going to come in, use AI, use your expertise to make them tons more money. Like it literally screams that already.
Yes, exactly.
And this very title didn't exist a few years ago. It literally just didn't exist. It sounds made up. And that's why it's so sexy.
Yeah. The interview process was long. I was updating my resume, updating my LinkedIn with the help of your experts. And when I updated LinkedIn, I got an inbound from a recruiter about this role. Would not have been on my radar. There was about 6 interviews for this company, and I made it through all 6 rounds with various like chief of whatever. And I accepted the offer. When was it? Monday. So I will start December 1st.
So yeah, it is exactly 2 months. Yeah, good. That's amazing. Okay. It's amazing in terms of the 6 months that you've been searching on your own. And before that, it took 11 months, you said, right? In this market, that's completely normal. The stats that we have is that people are looking between 12 and 15 months at the moment. And these are all experienced PMs and UXers with amazing experience, good household names in their resume as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so considering that to the 2 months that you did is incredible. Mm.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I definitely think it was with your help because I would have kept doing the same things that I was doing that wasn't working. And I would not have also put a lot of effort into the actual interview. But this allowed me to really think about both. And then one was actually almost on like auto drive, like the inbound LinkedIn. That was helpful because then I could really focus on my presence, my communication style, and what I wanted to say.
Amazing. How do you feel about your life now compared to the time before you joined the program? You haven't started yet, and so
Yeah,
some part of it probably still doesn't feel quite real.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. Very much
I
so.
remember you saying to me, Q, I got an offer. I feel so relieved. So tell me about how you
Yeah.
feel about your life now compared to
Um,
before.
I do feel a sense of absolute relief because now I don't have to take contracting positions or worry about how things are going to do or start penny pinching. And I can start thinking about vacations and thinking about whatever it is. So that gives me a sense of peace, which therefore gives me a greater sense of confidence. And I do feel like I will need to continue to have the proper mindset throughout the employment, but I certainly am grateful and relieved. Find a job is not a pleasant place to be.
My husband used to always joke that, that it's not normal that I have this passion for interviewing and looking for jobs because I used to literally do it for recreational purposes. So, and so it gives me energy. And he was like, it's not normal. I just need you to know that it's not normal.
Glad you do gift though. Thank you for sharing because I don't share that joy, but I need somebody that has that for me to be like, oh, it can be a pleasurable place. It can be a game. I can do this.
Exactly. As soon as you know that there's even just a one person out there that is enjoying it, then you're like, oh, it's possible. And then you start relating it to things that you do, maybe that other people may not like. And so you're like, oh, it's a bit like that. Yes. Okay. So let's see it. Let's reframe it. Let's look at it from a different lens. Anna, what advice would you give someone who is considering joining the program? Imagine they are literally going through a very similar experience as you. And so what advice would you give someone who is considering joining the program, knowing what you know now?
The best investment you'll ever make is the one you make for yourself. And I knew that, I've heard it, but I wasn't living it. And I got to the point where I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm already unemployed. I'm already in a position where whatever I'm doing is not working. And I was hesitant towards it because I do have things that I need to spend money on, but at the same time, quality is so important. And I was spending money on tools that weren't working or things that were only burning me out. And the diminishing returns were starting to outweigh the fact that I could learn a lot and I need help and I need to talk to experts. And I absolutely recommend this program because of the ability to be able to work with somebody like you who's so experienced, so knowledgeable, so aware of the different perspectives, and then also peers in this program too who share questions that maybe I didn't have at the time, or I will have, or I did have that same question. And it's so relevant and so helpful. And it is also wonderful to be in a room full of people with the same goals and struggles and frustrations. And it just makes the situation more digestible.
Amazing. Any final thoughts that you have in terms of reflection on the program, on your journey that you want to share?
My only reflection is I'm grateful to have a job. I'm grateful to get an offer. It's going to be a lifelong lesson learned, but I feel more equipped and capable and aware of what I need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna, I'm so happy for you. I'm glad that we've reached this milestone. I just want to wrap this up by saying thank you so much for finding me or me finding you. I don't know which way it was,
You
but
reached out to me.
I reached out
I'm
to you. Okay, so
so
I found
glad
you.
you
I'm so
did. Yeah.
glad.
And you followed up. You reached out once, and I was like, I can't do it. And then when the second time you followed up, I was like, okay,
She's
she's
a
right.
sign.
Yes.
She's persistent.
Yes.
Yeah. But I love working with folks like yourself. You're definitely a blessing to the program. You once again come back to your alpha status by setting an example for the others, that it can be done and that there's nothing wrong with not knowing everything. You're not supposed to. I talked to someone the other day who said, I just don't want to devote my life in figuring out the job search thing. I'm so thankful that you were in the program and set an example for all the others who are still searching. Show them what's possible and show yourself what's possible as well. Thanks for all the work that you've put in, for the questions that you've had, the improvement that you've made. You just took things on and just changed it. It's been such a pleasure to work with you on this.
It's a blessing for me as well. And I look forward to seeing you and working with your team. Your team is a blessing, and thank you.